Yeah. Quinn on the mic, I'ma lace it with truth. Phillip in the back, calling plays from the booth. Podcast vibes, broadcasting the word. Sharper than the two-edged sword. Every verse heard on my arm strap. Shield tight like a glove. Faith in my veins, powered by God's love. Ephesians 6:11, yeah, it's the drill. Put on the full armor, stand firm in his will. Armor up, we don't back down. Shield of faith when the world comes around. Sword in my hand, I'm ready to fight. Jesus is the captain leading through the night. Yeah, sports in the spirit, it's a game of endurance. Training in faith, no room for deterrence. Quinn and Phillip, tag team for the kingdom. Breaking down walls till the world can see them. Helmet of salvation, blocking the lies. Belt of truth, yeah, I'm suited to rise. Yeah, shoes fitted tight, spreading peace while I step. I run this race with Jesus, no regret. You feel the heat, that's the fire of the spirit. Voices in the dark, but I don't even hear it. Face my defense, prayer's my offense. Victory in Jesus, yeah, it's immense.
Welcome back to Armor Up Athletics, episode number 25, titled But God. My name is Matt Quinn, joined as always by Phillip Leviner.
Hello.
Phillip, kind of explain how this topic came up with the title But God.
So, obviously praying about everything every week and trying to figure out, what God wants us to talk about. I heard some kids kind of talking about it and, trying to get cool with the slang, and I hear but God and you kind of hear that all the time. So it intrigued me. So I started kind of researching, and lo and behold, but God appears between 40 and 48 times in the Bible, throughout the Bible, but God, what he can do. And I got to thinking to myself, how many times have we said that, right? I had this and this going on, but God, and it just seemed like with the hipsters and the young kids and you kind of hear people jokingly say it sometimes, won't God do it or but God. And, but I've kind of thought how many times I've said that. And, it took me to a verse that I found and, I had that whole thing that I typed out to you, but I can't see it right this second, but that was kind of what it had said about it, how many times it was actually used in the Bible, man. And you think it's just a phrase, you think it's just something you're saying, but it's actually very biblical throughout the Bible. So I thought it was a good topic this week because, again, but God, right?
Yeah, just so I'll read these notes that you had sent me, 40 to 48 times, depending on the translation, which translation you read, 40 to 48 times in the Bible. Often indicating God's divine intervention in hopeless situations, turning defeat into triumph, highlighting God's mercy, power, and faithfulness. It appears frequently in stories of salvation from Noah to Joseph and beyond, signifying that God steps in where humans fall short. And those are the notes of the one and only Phillip Leviner that he sent me this week.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at my research, Matt. You're always prepared and got a script and got notes, and I'm trying to get a little bit better at that. And of course, it's funny, but I do try to get in my Bible more, and I'm getting more curious about the Bible and trying to dig in deep and really, not just kind of reading a verse or two, but really understanding the situation these guys are in at those moments. And it's really interesting, man. I don't know why I've never took the Bible that serious before. I think we've talked about this, right? But these stories are true. They're written and they're unbelievable stories of triumph and failure and grace and mercy and everything that you go through in life. It's right there. So I love it.
Episode 25, But God, jersey numbers. We've thrown out a few as we were talking before the show. I think we've landed on two pretty good ones, not necessarily football related, but this is going to turn into, as soon as the Super Bowl's over, it's going to morph into more sports and talking about other things. But number 25, what did you have start off with?
Obviously the main one that comes to mind is the slugger Barry Bonds, right? He was. I know the asterisks that they try to put by him, but I'm going to tell you this, man. I was a baseball player, and I think it is probably one of the hardest things to do is to hit a round ball with a round bat. So whatever he was taking, if he took it, I don't know. He still had to have the athletic ability to put that bat on that ball, and it's phenomenal what he did. I still think it's phenomenal what he did. Him
Well,
and the other 25, your guy.
yeah, sticking in the steroid era, Mark McGuire was mine. I mean, I grew up in a time period where McGuire and Sosa's home run race, and then they would like cut into your regular scheduled TV
Yeah.
to just show their at bats.
Yep.
It was an exciting time, and just like you said, whether they did or did not, or whatever they did take or didn't take or whatever, none of that helps your hand-eye coordination and hitting a baseball. Now, did they go an extra 50 to 150 feet further? Maybe, but the hand-eye coordination. I mean, two great hitters. Barry Bonds, still one of the best hitters of all time. Mark McGuire was known for that, that one powerful season. But Barry Bonds, I think, is one of the greatest hitters to ever play baseball. And a lot of guys in the MLB and former MLB guys and Hall of Famers will tell you that he was one of the toughest ones to throw to. I got the opportunity to meet a former Braves legend, a Braves pitching coach, and we were sitting down asking him questions, and Leo Mazzoni was the pitching coach. He would sit in the dugout and rock when they flip it over there. He was known for his rock and it's like his nervous tick or whatever. But I got a chance to sit down and meet with him, and me and my brother sat down and we asked him about various baseball questions. And we asked him about who was the toughest pitcher to prepare for as a pitching coach and how you're going to throw to him. And his first answer, without hesitation, was Barry Bonds.
Yeah, Barry was that guy, man. He's what's the kids say? He's him these days. He definitely was him before that saying even existed. When he came up to the plate, there was a good chance something was going to happen. Matter of fact, if you check stats, I dare say his walks are up there too because people didn't want to pitch to him. They were intentionally walking him because they knew anything around that zone he was getting on it.
Episode 25, but God. Let's jump right into it, man. We talked a little bit about why we wanted to talk about this episode, where it came from. I do want to throw these few notes out before we jump into some scripture, like, but God, not this is all there is. It's not I've hit a dead end. It's not I'm in a hopeless situation, but God. Those two words can signal divine intervention when everything else fails, when you feel like you have no hope, you have nothing else, nothing left to turn to, no friends, no family, whatever situation you may be in, but God will be there. And, in sports, we talk about the game-changing plays, the unexpected turn, the comeback moments, the break in momentum that flips a game or even flips a season. In life and faith, God's but God moments are even bigger than those highlights. They come when all of our hope is gone. They come when circumstances push us back, when we end up looking for a job or whatever situations that we're going through. When all your plans fall apart, God flips the narrative.
Yeah, and again, it's simple, right? It's a simple phrase. It's two words, and the more that I stay on this journey, the simpler a lot of this really becomes, Matt. I mean, it's not as complex as we make it sometimes. It's not hard to get saved. I don't think it's as hard as we think to serve God if you really want to do that. And when it comes to phrases like "but God," it's so powerful but so simple. It says so much in just those two words. And just think about how many times you've said it, and how much more it kind of means now. That was kind of the light bulb for me because I've said it so many times, and then when I dug into it, it was like, man, it took on a whole new kind of meaning now because I can just sit here and just see everything that happens, and you can just be like, but God, even in your bad moments, it's still but God. I think it applies in every facet of whatever you're going through. I mean, simple, very simple, but powerful.
I love it, man. And I'll jump right into some scripture that I have here. The first one was Genesis 50:20. And it says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." So when you look at this verse, you're talking about Joseph. Joseph had every reason to be bitter. He was defeated. He was done. He was sold into slavery. He was falsely accused. He was forgotten in prison. But God used that setback for a greater purpose. He used his story for a greater purpose. And then the second verse that I had was Romans 5:8. And it said, "But God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we are still sinners, Christ died for us." This verse just to me flipped all of our logic upside down.
Yeah.
We were lost, we were unworthy, we were far from God, but God showed love first. He reached us first. He rescued us first.
Yeah, and you know, Genesis 50:20 was mine too. So I know we've been kind of busy and we didn't get to really to talk about this one this week because obviously I'm down in Florida working and you're in Virginia. So we were kind of strapped this week to communicate. But yeah, 50:20 was the same for me, man. I loved it when I read it. It took me straight there after I was doing it. And it just hit me uh, because you see this so much, right? You know, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. And that's kind of, you know, the story of our lives sometimes. There's a lot of people out there that aren't meant to be in your life for good things. They do, you know, the devil is going to come against you and he means it in an evil way. You know, so, but God, you know, he's never wanting to harm us, never wanting to forsake us, never wanting any of that for us. He means for good. And, you know, I've never really dug that deep into Genesis, you know, other than in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But I forgot how raw and new and everything was in the beginning there. So Genesis is a really good, you know, I've started reading it a little bit more too. But that verse just stuck out to me. Just it sums it up very simply again.
Yeah, that's my bad. I remember you sending me that verse, but then when I read it, I was like, God, this verse is so good. And I got real fixated on the story behind it with Joseph. And
Yeah.
so my verse of the week is Romans 5:8. But God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we are still sinners, Christ died for us. And then obviously Genesis 50:20 is Phillip's verse. That's my bad on that.
Look, it was meant to be on this show tonight. If we both liked it a lot, so as long as the message gets out there, that's what counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think as we jump into the main message here, there's a couple of scenarios like when life says you're done, God says, I'm not finished. When your circumstances around you are saying give up, God says hold on. When the world says this is impossible, God says watch this. And I think that phrase, but God, that we've based all this episode on, it doesn't just remind us that God exists. It tells us that God shows up when we need him the most.
Yeah, and again, I think we get sidetracked sometimes when God doesn't answer our prayer immediately in our time. And we have to remember that God's time is not our time, but his time is always on time. And be thankful for those moments that he does make himself noticed in your life. Again, I say this all the time, man. I'm a true believer that God lets us go through some of this stuff, you know, just to see how we're going to respond and react sometimes. He can't always bail us out of things that we get ourselves in, right? And you can't always call on him when you're having a bad day. So you know, but God is a big, such a big statement. And I'm thankful for everything that I've been through, even though people ask me sometimes, how can you be thankful? Well, it brought me to where I am, right? You know, I didn't fall, I didn't cave forever in that moment. I caved for a minute, but God picked me back up and he brushed me off and he brought me through that to really teach a lesson. I think God has a way of doing that when we're being a little hard headed or we want things in our time, we want it now. God says, wait a minute, bud, slow your roll and remember what's going on. And you can't expect riches and favor at your beck and call. It doesn't work like that, and you have to appreciate the tough times. And then at the end of the day, everything that you go through is those two words that we come back to, but God, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned it there too. Like sometimes we ask, like, why am I going through this? And God puts us through certain things, and I think as we go into after the Super Bowl, we're going to go into the award show, and I think the early leader for the award of most quoted guest is going to go to my brother Kennard. Like he's the early leader for it, and I always come back to it because we're going through this, and you're sitting there thinking, why? Well, maybe it's part of the story that you get to tell one day. And Kennard talked about that and just shed some light on it. So he's the early leader in the clubhouse for our first award of most quoted guest.
That show was so spontaneous. If you remember how, because we weren't going to have a guest, and we were trying to figure it out, and you throwed him in. You said, "Hey, I'm gonna bring my buddy on," and it was probably one of the just coolest shows I think. And he did, man. He spit so much fire in that show.
Man, we had actually finished recording what we thought was going
Yeah.
to be the show, but God stepped in and said, "We got to have this." So we had just been texting, me and Kennard, and then he jumps in and he drops some knowledge on us, like, we're going through this, so you can share this story one day. And I think that's human nature. It's really hard to get through that because you want to know, like, why am I going through this? Why did I lose my job? Why did this happen? Why? Instead of looking at the overall story of this is going to be a great story one day when
Yeah.
God comes through and he solves these problems and he fixes me and he gets me back on my feet. Imagine the story that I'm going to be able to tell because he allowed me to go through that. And I think all that's here. Like it's all mental. And I talked to our players about positive thoughts and positive vibes and how to be uplifting and keeping those positive vibes going within the team. And I think this applies here too is, if you wake up, I tell them, if you wake up and say, today's going to be a terrible day, it's going to be a terrible day. But if you wake up and say, let's get after it today, I'm going to attack the day, I'm going to be a positive influence today, your mind can trick your body into doing some crazy things. And again, it fits here. Like we can sit through here and go through these different situations and say, why? Or we could flip our thinking and our positive thoughts and say, I can't wait to tell this story. As soon as I get out of this, I'm going to tell a great story about what God did for me. And love the fact that he shared that. And I love that we can continue to use that in our lives too.
Yeah, it was a great episode, and it was so even greater how it came together. And to your point, you know, we get shaken, I think, a little more so often these days because I look back on like my parents and my grandmothers and elders in the church when I was smaller, how their faith seems so unshakable. Like I remember my grandmother just every day, man, there was no matter like a plane could crash into her house. And the first thing was she said, I'm blessed, thank God that I'm here. Nothing ever seemed to really shake. And I know that they went through bad times, just like my parents. I know they went through some tough times. But every day you hear them say, hey, thank God, they're praying for somebody. And their faith was seemed like unshakable. And now, I'm trying to be more like that, even though everything that I've been through is so easy to try to kind of blame God. And why do we do that? God doesn't want harm for us. It says it in Genesis right here. Everything he meant for us is good. So why is our first reaction is to blame him when something bad happens in our life? I don't know. I don't know where that started. I don't have that answer. Something for you guys to ponder and think about yourselves because it made me switch my thinking and just really be thankful. We are blessed to be here. I was with dinner with some people tonight, and the guy brought that up, man, out of nowhere. We're just sitting there talking about business, and he's like, you know what? We are very blessed to be at this table and be able to do what we're doing right now. We're very blessed to be here, and I think we need to take a second and realize that. And it was just like, bro, you 100%, right? So yeah, man, but God, right? That, again, it fits everywhere you do it. It fits.
It always works, man. The saying always works, whether you say it in a joking manner or not. Like it still applies, and
Yep.
I love it. I love the title. I love the topic. I'm going to jump into some real talk like I've been doing here lately,
Yep.
and have you chime in too. But like the real talk from Coach Quinn this week, some of you feel stuck in the middle of your story. You're tired, you're confused, you're overwhelmed with life and what's going on. Maybe you're looking for that breakthrough. Maybe you're waiting for a reversal. Maybe you're looking for that next big thing to happen for you. Maybe you're wondering if God even sees you. He does. And but God is the pivot point. The moment when God interrupts that downward spiral, he picks you up, he makes something new, and somebody here listening or watching us may need to hear this. If you feel stuck, keep pushing, man. Um, God is here for you. We're here for you. If nobody else is, like the Armor Up crew is here for you. And just think about the story you're going to be able to tell whenever you get out of what you're going through. Think about that story that you're going to be able to tell when you say, I was going through this, but God. And then you can share your testimony and share your story. It's going to be an amazing time when I finally do get to hear some of those stories, because I know some of my friends right now that are going through some things, and they're going to be able to share this testimony and this story at some point, and I can't wait to have them on.
Yeah, and I'll share a little bit. Obviously, I've started a new career, and I'm down in Florida training. And one of my biggest fears leading up until this moment was getting back on the road and being alone on the road, because that was some of my biggest failures, especially with drinking. There's a bar in the lobby. We've been to dinner every night. They're having drinks, and I was so nervous about being back around that, how it was going to affect me, and then being down here where nobody could see me if I wanted to do something. But the first dinner we sit at and the first drink that was ordered, but God, Matt, I mean, a peace came over me like I've never felt. I ordered my Coca-Cola and I got a glass of water and I sit there and I was fine. And it assured me that but God is real. And if you do surrender to Him and you give it over to Him, He'll give you the strength to fight these battles. I mean, I could literally smell the bourbon from the guy next to me. Uh, and I remember, I used to love that smell. Oh my God, it was like candy, but it almost kind of made me sick when I smelled it Sunday night. And it's like, so who can do that other than but God? For someone who loved the taste of alcohol, that just purely enjoyed everything about it, to now it's almost turning my nose up. That's but God. That's what that is. Phillip didn't do that.
Yeah, and I
So
mean, same thing for me. Like, a couple of the coaches from other sports were down here in Virginia, and we went out to watch the national championship game that Monday night, and everybody's ordering their beers at the table, and I'm like, and in the past I see a beer ordered, and I'm thinking it's go time, but God, man, I'm telling you, I felt a peace, and I had a water and a lemonade with me, and I ate my wings at B Dubs, and ended up being able to still have the same conversation and the same fellowship with all the guys. And again, guys, this isn't like me and Phillip talking bad about people that do drink, whatever.
right,
Like
right.
that's okay. Like what you do is what you do. There's nothing saying, if you have a beer, you have a bourbon drink, you're going to hell. Like I don't believe that. I'm just saying for us, it was a thing that we needed God to get through, and He
Yeah.
helped me through it, and He helped Phillip through it.
And again, going back to those guys, they drank a couple drinks and they come back to the hotel and they went to bed. The problem that I had is I wasn't going back here and going to bed. I was going to the next bar and then the next bar. So you're right. I don't judge anybody for what they do, but for me in my life and where I had to get to, it had to stop. And I said that to those guys, and they were asking me why I don't drink, and I told them, hey, first of all, let me show you this, you know, and and I just was I'm always very honest and open about it. I don't try to hide the fact that I was an alcoholic. I mean, I owned it. I did it. So I'm not ashamed now. It's a story. It's a chapter in my life that was written, and now I'm writing new chapters. And a book's not complete till all the chapters are written. So I'm still writing my book, and now it's just a different feeling, and it's really nice to be back in the hotel room. And I'm fine. I'm gonna lay down and go to sleep. I'm gonna get up early. I'm gonna hit the road, and I'm not gonna have a headache in the morning, Matt.
There's a positive there. There is a positive. Locker room challenge for the week, man. I want you guys to identify one situation in your life that feels impossible right now, and take that situation and replace your but with but God. Some examples that I put down. I have no strength, but God gives me strength. I'm overwhelmed. I'm tired, but God will carry me. Like, write it down, speak it out loud. Trust that God is at work, even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it. Just remember it. And I want to be the challenge for the week for you guys as we go forward for another week of work and school and games and all that good stuff.
Know that you know, man. But God is there. Um, I can't stress it enough. Even when you don't think He's listening, He's listening. So,
Flipping gears, man. We don't have too much football to talk about left until we, get to the Super Bowl. We do have a memorable Super Bowl, so to speak, a rematch of a memorable Super Bowl with the Seahawks and the Patriots here. I think everybody remembers the pass on the 1 yard line. So we'll see how that comes into play as the game plans come together for these two teams.
Marshawn's gonna be so mad if they win this ball game. Just give it to Marshawn.
I'm telling you, I had to give it to him. If it's first and goal, I'd give it to him 4 times.
Exactly.
If you stop him 4 times inside the 5 yard line, you deserve to win.
So be it.
And
I am excited. I got two good friends that live out in Washington and Paulo out there, and they're big Seahawk fans. And I was talking to them the other night, and give them a little shout out. Go Hawks for them. I know my buddy he had really kind of sold some stocks the year they went to the Super Bowl and bought the tickets and took his son, and they were in the stands when they didn't run Marshawn. It's almost like you couldn't even talk to him about that Super Bowl. He was so mad. So I'm like, look, I'm praying for redemption for you, man.
Super
But
Bowl.
now I'm not going to be mad at whoever, because Drake May's had a great season. I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty good Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. I think you got two really good teams, and while we're talking about the Patriots, can we just somebody answer this question?
Know what you're fixing to say.
How is Bill Belichick not a first ballot Hall of Famer? Like, I mean, it makes no sense to me.
Who he made mad, but it's definitely not on his career and what he's done for football.
I mean, number one in Super Bowls, number one in playoff victories, number one in division championships. I don't know what else he needs. I mean, I know his college tenure not going right now. Now, I'm not saying he can't fix it and turn it around, but right now it's not what everybody was hoping and expecting. But we're talking about the NFL Hall of Fame. If there is a coach that is a first ballot Hall of Famer, it's Bill Belichick.
100%. There's not a coach out there that's done what he's done. And you can go back in history if you want. I mean, he I don't know. I read that today. I was at dinner when it came across my phone. I'm like, wow. Wow. That's all I can say. Wow.
Makes no sense. We do have the Pro Bowl coming up. If anybody still watches the Pro Bowl, it used to be cool back in the day. Now it's flag football and dodgeball and dance competitions or something.
Hey, Shador Sanders got put in, so they should retire his jersey after that game.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I think that was probably a calculated move by the NFL to pick him as an alternate. Like, he is a likable guy,
Oh yeah, he's
and
popular.
people are going to tune, and so maybe they're trying to boost their ratings. And do do I think his season and his stats warranted a Pro Bowl? No, but I mean, if he's an alternate and they throw him in there to get some ratings and get people to tune in because nobody's watching it anymore, I mean, now I'm going to watch it just to see what he does or what he says or how he dances. So.
Yeah, it's become a popularity contest, so to speak. I mean, I do like some of the stuff they do around it beforehand, some of the competitions they have. I watch a little bit of it, but I remember back in the day when Pat McAfee was hitting people in the Pro Bowl, just knocking their lights out.
Back in the good old days when football was football and we didn't wear flags.
Right,
Um,
right.
but it is what it is. I think it's going to be a fun week.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Super Bowl, I do encourage anybody that's listening to watch the Turning Point USA halftime show. I think it's going to be a great show. Obviously, Brandon Lake and a couple other Christian artists are going to be on that halftime show. You have to flip it over off the main channel, but for me and mine and my house, like we're going to flip over and watch that halftime show.
Yeah, I'm, again, I try not to be political these days, but you can't help but to walk into some of it. But I'm also a firm believer if you got to take a stand at some point on your faith, and I think Turning Point does a good job with that. I think it's for the right reasons. It's going to promote God, Brandon Lake, and those guys. I think it's going to be really, really, really well done. I do, and I think it's going to glorify God in a very good way.
Yeah, take the politics out of it. That's all
Right.
I'm talking about. I'm talking about the praise and worship music that
Yeah.
they're about to. I mean, they are going to throw it down. I can guarantee you, it's going to be an electric praise and worship session there at the halftime show.
I'm looking. We got tickets to Brandon Lake in April, man. I can't wait.
Where's it going to be at?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Not too far away.
No, I am. Paxton is excited. I can't wait. I love him, man. I think he's on to something. He connects with everybody, and they can say what they want. He's over here with this one, over here with that one. I think that's exactly what Christians need to do. I don't care who he shares the stage with, long as God's getting glorified, which he really, really does a good job of making sure of that. And then he just has really good music, man. The dude can sing. He is phenomenal. You know. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be tuning in to Turning Point halftime, 100%.
Episode 25, But God, the Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire jersey episode. Closing thoughts here, man. I put down a few notes. Phillip, I'll let you share your verse. But for me, God doesn't always move how we expect. He doesn't always move when we want it. He doesn't always move on our timeline, but he always moves. And when he does, things change. When life says no way, God says, but God. And that was my closing thought I wanted to leave you with, Phillip. I stole your shine earlier, so go ahead and recap that verse.
Hey, again, long as the verse gets out, that's the main point. But yeah, Genesis 50:20 says, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." That is, to me, it says everything about that statement. I've used "but God" so many times in my life, good, bad, and indifferent. But I know for one thing, but God has always showed up for me. And I think he will show up for you. I think he's that guy that you can always depend on. If it's the last drive and we need a playmaker in the game, but God, right?
I can't think of anybody better that I would want to throw the fade ball to. Jesus Christ, give him the ball.
That's it.
I mean, undefeated. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. Episode 25, man. It seems like yesterday we were doing number one, 25 shows into this. Cannot thank you guys enough for the likes and the shares, not for me, but for God, and for his glory, all the follows, the likes, the comments, man. It's been amazing, Phillip.
It has, man. And again, we both are back in full force in what we're doing, but we made a commitment and we still want to get these things done and on the air. And we feel like God has still given us the calling to do it. And they're always fun to do. I mean, even in our hectic worlds and when we don't, really think we're going to get time. Once the button clicks, it's just God, but God's in it, right? But yeah, man, the calls, the texts, the messages, the positive feedback, it's unreal week to week when I hear somebody say, yeah, man, we watch your podcast all the time. And, I think that's absolutely amazing. Coming from a small town kid like me that, sometimes feel like I don't deserve what I got or where I should be. I know that God's in this because you're not watching it for me. But if you're hearing God from us, that's what we want. So continue to listen, continue to listen for God's voice in this and his message for you. And I encourage you, if you don't know God and you stumble across one of these videos, he's waiting on you, man. He'll bring you in the midst too. It's very, very simple prayer, meaningful, and it's a good life. It really is. I'm enjoying it.
It is a great life, and I will tell you guys, just going off of what Phillip said there, it is the best team I've ever been on. I've played for a lot of good coaches and a lot of wins and a lot of championships, but this is the best team that I've ever been on. God's team, undefeated, never lost. Just an amazing time and what he's done in my life and what he's done for my family, what he's done for my relationships, what he's done for me as a husband, as a father. It's been amazing.
Yep, 100%, man. I mean, my life was very not good when I was in control of it. So
very, very not good.
But God stepped in and said, "Hold up, Bo. Let me help you out with that."
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, what a great topic. What a great time. Phillip, if we're good, I'll close us out in prayer.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Dear Lord, we thank you for stepping in when it's right on time. Not on our time, but your time. Thank you for putting us through things to be able to share great stories, great testimonies. We thank you for everything that you've done for us and everything you're going to do for us, Lord. We ask that you be with those that are struggling. We be with those with health issues, health concerns. Be with our families. Be with everyone as we battle these snowstorms and ice storms, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Let's go. Thank you guys, man. Episode 25, But God. If today's message happened to encourage you, man, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody that needs a reminder. Share it with somebody that you love, you care about, and maybe you show up right on time for them. Stay ready, stay faithful, guys, and always go Scots, go Jesus, go Cougars, go Gators, go Jesus. Who else? What other teams we throwing in there?
Panthers.
Go Panthers. Go Braves. Man, it's a long time. Anyway, before I log out, man, I do want to throw a shout out to Coach Brandon Johnson over at Bassett High School in Virginia. We went out on the road and recruited some Virginia schools this past week. Met Coach Johnson, an amazing guy. He is committed to coming on and joining the episode. He is the head football coach there. He's an ordained minister. He runs the youth programs and stuff. I don't want to give away too much of his story, but shout out to him. He's got the links. He started, following and looking at us on Spotify and stuff. So just an amazing story and testimony that he's going to be able to share in the coming weeks from Coach Johnson. That's what I love about recruiting, is being able to meet new people, share, and then just naturally, it just organically happened that we just started talking about God. And I was like, hey, well, I got this podcast. And he's like, well, I'm an ordained minister, and people's been telling me to start a podcast. And I was like, well, before you start one, why don't you jump on mine and, have some fun with it? And it was an amazing time. So shout out to Coach Johnson. Can't wait for you guys to meet him.
Sounds good, man. I'm looking forward to it. We got to get back to having some guests. So.
Yeah. He's definitely on board, and he's going to bring some fire. I'm telling you right now.
Good.
And hopefully he'll send me some players. But anyway, thank you guys, man. Go Cougars, go Jesus. Love you, Phillip. Have a good night.
Love you too, brother.
Ephesians 6:11, yeah, it's the drill. Put on the full armor, stand firm in his will. Armor up, we don't back down. Shield of faith when the world comes around. Sword in my hand, I'm ready to fight. Jesus is the captain leading through the night. Yeah, sports in the spirit. It's a game of endurance, training in faith, no room for deterrence. Quinn and Phillip, tag team for the kingdom, breaking down walls till the world can see them. Helmet of salvation, blocking the lies, built the truth, yeah, I'm suited to rise.